to yearofhitchcockmovies.com. We are your hosts, Jeff and Diane, and this is movie number 21 from 1941, Suspicion. And tonight's movie is a movie that was nominated for Best Picture for 1941. It contains a performance that won the Oscar for Best Actress for the same year, and it stars Cary Grant. So, what more could you ask for? Now, as we talked about in last week's movie, David O. Selznick had loaned out Alfred Hitchcock's services to RKO Pictures for 2 movies, and tonight's feature is the second movie of that deal. This is a story that very much interested Alfred Hitchcock, which is always a good sign. It's based on a novel called Before the Fact, written by Anthony Berkeley Cox. Now he writes it under the pseudonym Francis Isles, and he wrote it in 1932. It's probably written under a pseudonym because it was a very experimental book at the time. In fact, it was labeled an experimental book by the critics in 1932 because it's told from the perspective of a woman who feels as though she's going to be murdered, and it's not a whodunit because you know who's going to do it, and it's very interesting in that regard. It's a very dark movie, and it's very suspenseful and natural for Alfred Hitchcock. You can see why he liked it. You can see why he wanted to make the film. The screenplay for tonight's movie, though, was written by Joan Harrison, Alfred Hitchcock's personal assistant, Alma Reville, Alfred Hitchcock's wife, and someone by the name of Samson Raphaelson, who was a very famous, very successful Hollywood scriptwriter at that point. Among other things, this Samson fellow had written the play Time for Atonement. Is that what it's called? No, Day of Atonement, which actually turned into the movie The Jazz Singer, which from 1927, that was the first sound film ever in Hollywood. He also wrote the screenplay for Little Shop Around the Corner, which is a James Stewart movie from the 30s sometime, which we love. That movie was remade into the Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan movie, You've Got Mail. So he wrote some really great movies. And he actually spoke of this script. He said it was the best thing he ever did, and that's also very good news. So now, and this time too, Alfred Hitchcock, he got who he wanted to star in this picture, namely Joan Fontaine, because David O. Selznick loaned her out as well, probably also for a huge fee to RKO Pictures, and Cary Grant, who was RKO's golden boy. We'll talk about him in a second. So both big stars at this point, and this is the first of 4 films that Alfred Hitchcock will do with Cary Grant, and they're all good. But the last that he'll get to work with Joan Fontaine, which is tragic because, boy, she was so good in Rebecca. She's perfect. Although she does appear in an episode in the TV show, The Alfred Hitchcock Hour, in an episode from 1963. The movie that we're watching tonight requires no background because it's a great movie. But more on Cary Grant. You know, he had already done 40 movies at this point. He was nominated for the movie Penny Serenade, also from 1941, which is excellent. That's a very good movie. Nominated for Best Actor for that year. And I wasn't kidding when I said he was RKO's golden boy. He was their matinee idol. And that plays a factor in tonight's movie. We'll talk about that at the end of the movie. So Joan Fontaine as well, we remember that Alfred Hitchcock was a little mean to her, and on the set of Rebecca told her, you know, don't worry dear, nobody likes you, and to try to make her whatever. But once he realized she was the real deal, he left her alone, and she comes up with this performance in tonight's movie that we can tell you she did win Best Actress. The last time that an actor or an actress wins the Oscar for a Hitchcock movie. It's just not what he was gunning for. So that's pretty cool. Also in this film is Nigel Bruce, who was briefly in Rebecca. He's of course Dr. Watson from all those black and white Sherlock Holmes movies from the 40s with Basil Rathbone. He plays a friend. He's Beaky in this one. Dame May Whitty is in this film. She, of course, was Miss Froy in The Lady Vanishes. She plays Joan Fontaine's character's mother in this film. And Leo G. Carroll makes his second appearance of 6 films. He appears in more movies than anyone but Claire Greet and Alfred Hitchcock in these Hitchcock movies. He played the doctor in Rebecca, who told us the bad news that Rebecca was dying and she was pregnant, and no, wasn't pregnant but dying. Anyways, that's who. So he's in this. He also, if you remember the show The Man from U.N.C.L.E., he was in those shows. So that's pretty cool. And if you really want to get technical, Isabelle Jeans is in this one. Very briefly, she was the star of Easy Virtue, the silent film from way back when we were doing silent film. She's in this one too. There is a Hitchcock cameo to look for. It's a tough one to spot, so we'll just give a little hint. It's about halfway through. So that's all you get. Also, Alfred Hitchcock's little doggy is in this movie. He was a big fan of the Sealyhams, the little terriers, and his dog is in this. His two little dogs are in the cameo for the movie The Birds, but we'll get to that. So lastly, look for the music in this one, also done by Franz Waxman. He did the music for Rebecca. He'll do the music in 2 more Alfred Hitchcock movies, bringing his total to 4 down the road. Really, really good music. Look for that. And lastly, look for shadows. Lots and lots of shadows. So here we go. From 1941, Suspicion.
Here's your milk, my dear.
Thank you.
Let's watch.